Friends, I'm going to be real and raw for a few moments, but it is for a reason. That to say our nation is troubled is an understatement. If I were to use one word, I would use the word hopelessness. There's a tremendous amount of stress and anxiety that has come from fear that's been mixed with false hopes. This new normal is doing a great amount of damage to people's psychological, physical and spiritual health. And this weekend, we see Jesus transfigured into light. A rare moment where we can witness what Jesus looks like and who he is. A moment where we see divinity and humanity come together as one. It's a passage, friends, that tells us so much about the need to not only care for our physical bodies, but also our spiritual souls. So let's dig in. You know, as a priest, it is heartbreaking to see families really struggle over the passing of their loved one. And when a loved one dies of COVID-19, it only seems to double the pain for families, because for many people, they have a feeling of being robbed of the loved one, that their loved one has died before their time. So it's a very real emotion right now. And you know, as a nation, we're faced with death each day now because we're being bombarded on television and all sorts of screens with the numbers of people who have died, human beings being reduced to numbers on a sheet. I mean, our young people, on top of not being able to see their friends, they're frightened out of their minds and are in many ways being drilled to hate their heritage and their past because their parents, their grandparents, etc., they did everything wrong. And they're also being told to fear the future because of climate change. I mean, is it any wonder that general practitioners, doctors around this country, are reporting an alarming increase in young people seeking antidepressant drugs? And some, who even heard on the radio last week, they're even questioning why bother going on with life. And now, the Irish government, they're striving at great speed, might I add, to bring in an assisted suicide bill for people who wish to end their lives, will be now medically assisted to do so. Now, I'm very concerned by this for obvious reasons, but because a nation like ours at the moment, which is so demoralized, spiritually and emotionally drained from meaning and hope as we are, if this bill is passed, it could mean a lot of people seeking its services. And I feel sorry for the doctors and the medical staff who have fought the really good fight this past year for life, and now, with this bill, may be asked to end it. And our government, in its planning to reopen the country, is doing so through the lens, a utilitarian lens, that men and women are seen as economic units. Who's the most economically viable? In other words, who is most useful? I mean, what have we become, friends, to merit such a cold-hearted view of what it means to be human? Life without value. Certain people prioritized over others based on their age and economic status. It's a country that has suddenly become quite a bleak place to live in. I know, friends, all of this sounds quite dark, and it is dark, but it's the truth, and we can't deny it. We have to face the truth. And as a priest here in Ireland, it's not difficult even to see that we are a nation in a serious spiritual void, and as a result has exacerbated hopelessness. And to so many people who, having moved Christ out of their lives and homes, and instead have started to welcome false, cozy gods made in their own image, this hopelessness, I think, is a result of casting aside true religion and solid spirituality. Our governments have closed the churches without giving it even a second thought, unlike other European countries and other countries around the world who give very serious consideration if it's even necessary to close churches. To curtail numbers, yes, but not to close churches completely. And the successor of St. Peter, Pope Francis, wrote to diplomats just past week, and he pointed out, and I quote, It must be recognized, he says, that religion is a fundamental aspect of the human person and of society, and cannot be eliminated. We cannot view the spiritual and moral dimension of the human person as less important than physical health. Sound care of the body can never ignore care of the soul. End quote. 100%. Friends, Pope Francis is hitting on a very fundamental point of what it means to be human. It's a point our government needs to realise. The closure of churches has had and is having an effect more drastic, I think, than our leaders actually realise, unfortunately. In short, when we cast God out of our lives, we quickly strip ourselves of meaning and hope. I mean, so many people have had the really big and important questions unexpectedly rise in their minds because of this pandemic. Questions like, well, why am I here? Who am I? Is there life after death? And most have nowhere to go with those questions because of an overly secular culture that's impressed hard on us. It's a culture that can easily lead to a place of meaningless, and unfortunately meaningless can lead to hopelessness. Now, I spoke before, and those of you who know me know, I spoke before about the single most revolutionary thought and truth that has ever been revealed to us in history, which is that you and I, friends, we're made in the image and likeness of God. That not only does God exist, but He has revealed to you and me we are made in His image, which means you and I have enormous dignity and worth, that we are made out of love, and that our ultimate goal is communion with God. This here and now, our lives, means I must respect you and love you, no matter what you've said or done wrong to me, because you have divine presence in you. Our humanity, friends, is bound to God. And this is made fully realized in Jesus, who this weekend, friends, in the gospel, shows us what it means for our humanity to be in full communion with God, and the ultimate result of our lives having nourished a personal, close relationship with Him. Now, it's a crazy gospel passage, but it is an incredibly smart move in the church to place this extraordinary vision of Jesus as we enter deeper into Lent, so that we see what our fasting, our prayer, and our charity giving results in: deeper communion with God, and eventually, please God, to live as Christ now lives. It's all the more important that we have this vision of Jesus as well during this very bleak time. Friends, we have Jesus transforming before the eyes of the apostles, giving them and you and me a glimpse of what He truly looks like. We see Jesus as He is, being fully human and fully divine at the same time. The light of God bursting out through His flesh, divine light emanating from His body, showing us that Jesus is who He says He is, the Lord God Himself. We see what He really looks like and what, please God, we are to look like, what we are to become. Friends, because God became man, we too can become like God. Our fleshy bodies can now exist in God's kingdom, fully spiritual, fully physical. And that's the implication of the Lord's resurrection. Friends, this passage is so rich and so important for us in today's world and today's church, because this gives us a vision of Jesus that serves us in two ways. First, it gives us the full vision of who Jesus is, namely God. And second, it gives you and me a glimpse of our future with the Lord, who we are, our rightful dignity as a child of God. And now, friends, suddenly life has meaning. Our flesh, our spiritual lives have meaning. Suddenly, you and I, we're worth everything. The hopelessness is reversed. Anxiety and worry are replaced by hope that no matter what we face, Christ is in you and Christ is in me. And as St. Paul says today in our second reading, with God on our side, who could be against us? You see, Jesus not only showed us that there is meaning in suffering, but that death itself has no hold over Him. So there's nothing to be afraid of, friends, even death or COVID-19, because Jesus is alive. This is why those of you out there struggling where you're at, what's going on in the world, I'm imploring you, turn to God. Parents who may not necessarily practice the faith regularly, but do want the sacraments of the church, guys, start praying again. Teach your children to pray. This is not a fairy tale. We're not in a good place at the moment in our country and in our heads. And much of this has been due to the fact we have cast Christ out of our family and public life. The closure of churches is definitely not helping. When we push God aside, we begin to strip ourselves of dignity, meaning, and hope. So please, don't be afraid of God. Don't be afraid of Christianity. Come back to Christ. And look, friends, I can only respond to this as a priest, but perhaps first and foremost as a Christian man, a man who has encountered this Jesus of Nazareth. And I exist now to tell others of the only truth that actually matters, that Jesus is alive. And the implications and hope this has in our lives, as we see in the Transfiguration of the Lord today in the Gospel this weekend. Particularly for meaning and hope that can't be easily destroyed, because it does not come from us as human beings, nor does it come from governments, but only from God. Christ today stands as a beacon of light to all of us in these dark and hopeless times. He stands always as that light, waiting for us to go to Him. To my Christian brothers and sisters in these difficult times, friends, instead of adding to the anxiety of others, let's live out more authentically our vocations as followers of Christ in this world. Pray more, stick to Christ, embrace Him with the same love like that of Mary Magdalene, and live out our faith that the apostles handed on to us with the enthusiasm of St. Peter. The time has now come to be men and women who inject into our culture once again human worth, dignity, meaning, and hope that can only come from having a deep personal relationship with the risen Jesus Christ, and to share that good news with everybody. Friends, may Christ bless and protect you all. Hi everybody, Father Bill here. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy what you're hearing and perhaps you're discovering something new, feel free to click a like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Ciao.